All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State, powered by the New Jersey Lottery. I'm Mike Ham. We are here in Wayne, New Jersey today at Child Focus with Executive Director Erica Fischer-Kaslander. Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we walked in. This must be like, first off, we're recording on like the first day of rain in like 2 months. So I feel like that's like a good sign.
It might be more than 2 months.
Honestly.
So, yeah, I'll take it for good luck.
Yeah, I think it's good luck. But so coming up here, getting here, and then kind of like walking in the front door, there's just like, it seemed like an energy. Because like I've been to a lot of places. I've seen a lot of places and, you know, done a lot of episodes and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But like, there's a bunch of people like at a table doing stuff and like the t-shirts and, you know, like all the stuff. It just like seemed like really cool and that you have something interesting here, right?
Yeah, thank you. It's, I mean, I think there's an energy because I love being here. And when you love your job, you know, something's right.
Sure.
But our staff are all here because they're passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
You know, they're not here for a paycheck, although we all need a paycheck at the end of the day.
Totally.
That's not what's keeping them here. It's, you know, the mission of the organization, advocating for abused and neglected children and knowing that we are in a place to help kids who often have no one else there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the table full of people when you walked in. You know, that's one of the things that I think is a huge perk. We're all really supportive and friendly with each other, and our staff, not because they are told to, but because they want to, you know, get together, you know, to grab lunch, and we'll, you know, hang out over 3 o'clock coffee while they're working. But, you know, that's just the kind of supportive environment, you know, that we've created. And I think that makes us the organization that we are. Okay.
Yeah, totally. And can we just, for the people that don't know, can we give like 30,000 foot view what Child Focus is, who you, I mean, you mentioned it, but who you serve and all that?
Absolutely. So we're a nonprofit organization. We were founded in 2007. Originally, our name was Passaic County Court Appointed Special Advocates, or CASA. And there are CASA programs throughout the country and throughout New Jersey. And for about 15 years, 16 years, we only served children in Passaic County, just with that one program, the CASA program. And an opportunity to serve the same population of children. So all children who are under the jurisdiction of the family court because they have been victims of abuse or neglect. An opportunity came during the pandemic, actually, in 2020, for us to expand and open a different program that was still serving the same children, same population of kids, just serving them in a different way.
Sure.
And that's the Safe Babies Court Team program. And we've been running that since 2000. So at that point, when we were, our name was Passaic County CASA, but we were doing two different things, one of which was not the traditional CASA model like you'll see across the rest of the state and in other states. Our board and our leadership team really decided we needed to consider what was the long-term vision of the organization.
Yeah.
And there is a long-term vision in terms of being able to serve all of the children in foster care in our geographic region, but also serve them in as much of a holistic way as possible, not just in one quadrant of their life.
Yeah.
And that's what led us to change the organization's name.
And that was?
So that was in April of this year.
Oh, okay.
So it's very new. But we officially became Child Focus Incorporated in April of 2024.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's 2024 this year.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And you came on as executive director in 2007, correct?
Yeah, I was hired by the original board, the first board that was created in end of 2006, beginning of 2007. And I started July of 2007. I always joke that, it was me and a pencil to our name. We didn't, as an organization, we didn't own a laptop or a desk. We didn't have office space. We had nothing. I was handed a brochure from our family court judge at the time and said, like, this is what we really want to create. Go for it.
Yeah.
If you told me 17, 18 years later, we'd be serving 2 counties with one program and 3 counties with a different program, and 100% of our kids in Passaic County actually get access to an advocate now, which when we started in Passaic County, none of them did.
Yeah.
So it's really just been a crazy whirlwind when you think about it. Although it's been a long time in one way, it's been really quick in another way.
Sure. So for you personally, when you said like you got handed a brochure, kind of Like, why? What were you doing before this that led you, like, put you in that moment to get handed that brochure and start here?
I got the brochure after I was hired, actually.
Oh, okay. All right. Got hired. Like, now what do we do?
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, academically, I have a background of my master's degree in child advocacy from Montclair State University. And I always thought I was going to law school, had planned on going to law school, thought I was going to, work and represent children in that way. And I had a couple of experiences personally that led me to change my mind and decide to go for my master's instead of a law degree. And because I really wanted to be more hands-on.
Sure.
I wanted to really work more directly with children, with families. And I was working while I was in my graduate degree, I had the opportunity to work actually for a private adoption agency. So I was working with adoptive families, while they were going through the application and home study process, but I was also working with birth mothers who were choosing, voluntarily to place their infant for adoption, domestic infant adoption, which is not common, in our area, societally as it was, 30, 40, 50 years ago. But just that small snippet of experience really just made me super passionate about child welfare as a field. I have multiple members of my family who were in foster care, were adopted from foster care. My youngest brother was adopted internationally. So to me, it's just personal.
Yeah.
It's, this just brings every aspect of my home life and my work life and my academic life together. And, just allowed me to really love what I do.
Yeah. Can we just real quick, because I don't know if people are going to be able to see it on camera, but there's like a lot of toys and stuff in here.
Yes,
like what room are we in?
We call this our family room.
Okay.
So we use this for anytime we have family, team. They're called family team meetings. So It's a meeting with parents and resource foster parents and all the professionals that get together. Often they're held on Zoom just because of how far away people are, but whenever we can do them in person, this room is available for those purposes. It's also available for visitations when it's necessary. When children are in foster care, they're entitled legally to have visitation with their biological parents. Sometimes that needs to be supervised, sometimes it's not. And whenever possible, the court tries to make sure that it's in a more as natural of an environment as is practical for that family.
Sure.
So whether that means meeting at a park or, in the community at a playground, or maybe it's going out for dinner. But sometimes that's not possible and you need a more formal, say office-based setting for that. And then this room is used for those visitations.
Yeah. Cause I saw an Xbox over
there.
There's all
kinds
that's
of stuff
pretty cool.
in here. Yeah. I would say we try to make sure we have, if we know a specific age group of child is coming in or children are coming in, we'll kind of equip the room a little differently.
Sure. Yeah.
But to, the basics, there's a little bit of everything. There's miniature chairs and Xbox for our older kids and changing pad. And
we almost sat up at the table, but then I realized if I sat in one of those chairs, I may never get out. I'll be here forever. Like, who's that?
It's
just Mike. Just leave him there. One thing that strikes me as someone who, I think the longest time I had a job was about like 6 years, to be in one place and doing this thing for since 2007. Obviously, like there must have been moments or have been moments and stuff over time where like you knew that you made the right decision, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we
Either
maybe
that
like,
or I'm crazy. I don't know.
Sure. But I think like, especially what you're describing when you took over, that you basically just had like a pencil and that was it, and then like now pulling up here, there's like a full office here. Like it's like a whole
real life office.
If you could touch it, you could sit in it, all kinds of stuff. Like to me, that's amazing. And I think if it was something that, especially with a mission like this with, dealing with kids and all that kind of stuff, to me, that shows like there's like a lot of good that's happening here,
Obviously I'm biased, but
sure,
I think
totally.
so.
Yeah.
It's, the organization didn't exist before I was hired. I was the first executive director. I was the first employee of any kind. Mm-hmm. The concept existed and, CASA as a model, had existed across the country in various different states, really since the late 70s. But it had never been here in Passaic County. I was born and raised in Passaic County my whole life. I still live in Passaic County. I'm raising my children here. So, besides my personal connection to adoption and foster care, I also am just passionate about my community. I've been a member of the Rotary Club of Paterson for the last 20 years, give or take. I'm going to age myself. And I think just making sure that what is happening to the child or children who are sitting in class next to my sons is as important as it is making sure that my own children, have access to everything.
Sure.
And that has happened. I mean, we serve, between 300 and 400 children in foster care in Passaic County every year. Obviously, that number has grown over the years as our organization grew. And I live here, so I have been online in ShopRite and had a family that we're working with in line ahead of me. My son is in middle school, and we've had a child who's recipient of our services who was also in the same middle school. And obviously, there's very strict confidentiality and boundaries that nobody knows that, but I know it in my head.
Yeah.
And that means a lot. That to me is a positive, is a huge positive, because I know that the impact I'm making is impacting the entire community, the entire world, not just for my son, but for everybody else's children who are walking parallel in society with all of these kids.
Right. And just trying to live a normal life.
Exactly. And that's all we want. Normalcy is, is a word that I feel like can be thrown around casually, but really normalcy is driving all of us day to day in this office. Just because a child's in foster care, just because they're involved with the family court system should not by any means define their experience in childhood.
Right.
It's very easy for it to define it, but that's really our biggest focus, is to advocate for all the long-term things, in terms of their permanency, where they live, and, are they adopted? Do they go back home? Obviously are always the forefront, but the day-to-day is making sure that their experience is as, quote unquote, normal as possible, whatever normal is. I don't think I know what normal is, but
I don't think any of us really do. But just like, I mean,
they have access to the same things we'd want access to if we were in their position.
Totally. Okay. I would like to, if we can, kind of like dig a little deeper on the 3 different programs, essentially.
Absolutely.
That way people know kind of like what the differences are between the 3. Yeah. So I think because we talked about it a bunch already, let's dig a little bit deeper into CASA.
I say CASA.
CASA.
I don't know which one's right, though.
Well, if you say CASA, I'm pretty sure that it's right.
Are you from New Jersey or New York?
Well, I'm from Jersey. Okay.
See, if you're from New York, they might say CASA.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, my parents, my mom at least, is from New York. Whatever.
We won't hold it against her.
Yeah, I know. Well, other things. But, okay, CASA of Passaic and Union Counties. Let's start there, because that's kind of how this whole thing really got started.
Yes.
So let's dig a little deeper and talk about the people involved in that.
Sure. So we say CASA of Passaic and Union Counties is our flagship program. It is our largest of the 3 programs. It's our oldest of the 3 programs. And it really is the core and the heart of our mission, is advocating for children who are in the foster care system. CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate, and it is a program. It's a position within the court system. It operates what we call as a friend of the court model. So we are independent, nonprofit organization, but we operate in partnership with our family courts. And when a child enters foster care, according to state statute in New Jersey and the court rule, they're entitled to an advocate to advocate for their best interests. They get an attorney assigned to them that is appointed by the state. It's a state employee who represents their wishes. The same as if you or I go out and hire an attorney, they're going to go to court and say, my client wants blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's what the state law guardian would say on behalf of any of our kids. They're kids.
Sure.
We all were kids once. Some of us have kids. And that kids don't always necessarily say what is in their best interest.
Right.
I mean, my son would ask for ice cream 3 meals a day if I let him. That's not in his best interest, but it's what he wants.
Sure.
So that's really the difference in the role between what our organization and our advocates play compared to, a lot of the other parties that are involved. We are truly the only person that's there representing the child's best interest as their sole focus. And they're all volunteers.
Okay.
Which I think is the other critical piece of understanding why this program works.
Yeah.
It's truly grassroots. So it's people from the community representing children from the community, ideally from, the same community. We try to recruit volunteers and match volunteers to represent children, that have similar shared backgrounds, that have shared language, shared cultural backgrounds. So we're always trying to recruit, people from really diverse populations, diverse communities, because our children come from very, very diverse backgrounds, across the board.
Yeah. Which is a very unique thing, I think, also, particularly like in this area, but Jersey as a whole, but definitely like in Passaic and Union counties. I mean, it's probably like two of the most diverse counties in the state.
I don't know the data, but I would say we should be if we're not.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think I guess maybe like Hudson County too as well, but like
and Essex probably.
Essex, also
the whole northern
this whole little corridor right here is
about 50% of our families that we work with each year are Spanish speaking.
Okay.
Not necessarily exclusively. A lot of them are bilingual, but for that reason, we do always put a heavy focus on recruiting volunteers who are bilingual Spanish speakers, because we want people to be able to, especially in a time like this that's I would argue probably the most traumatic time of their life. If they're in foster care, or from a parent's perspective, if their child's in foster care.
Yeah.
Language is hard enough on a day-to-day basis, but to be able to speak to somebody in your native language when you're in such a challenging emotional situation is just one tiny little minor thing that will hopefully make it a little bit easier and make the advocacy more effective.
Like back to that normalcy thing that we're talking about, the comfortableness, the normalcy, kind of just like a routine type thing.
Exactly. You know, and if you're upset and you want to talk about something really sensitive, you naturally want to talk about it in the way you're most comfortable, which if you're more fluent in one language over another, would typically go to the one you're more fluent in.
Totally.
Yeah. So Spanish speakers of New Jersey, we need you.
Yeah. We'll get to volunteer stuff too in a little bit. So then when you were giving me kind of the history of Child Focus and kind of where we are now, and New Jersey Safe Babies Court Team, what is that? When did that start? And then what was the, impetus behind that, like kind of adding that as a piece to the whole puzzle of Child Focus?
Sure. So New Jersey Safe Babies Court Team operates on, again, a national model of infant toddler court programs, which exist throughout the country in different states. They're all called something slightly different, but it is an evidence-based model. We know it works because it's been studied in peer-reviewed journals. But it's never been implemented in New Jersey until we were invited actually to apply for a grant to fund a pilot project in 2020. I'll never forget coming back to we weren't physically coming back to the office, but talking to staff on Zoom.
Going back to work.
Going back to my Zoom room.
Yeah.
It was July of 2020 when we received, this invitation to apply for funding. And my program director and I were talking about it, and she was like, "Are you crazy? Who launches a new program at the height of a pandemic?"
Sure.
And I was like, "We do." And I'm really glad that we did, because there's
no extra noise out there at that time.
No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we kept our heads down, and, it was a great time actually to do something new. We definitely had a lot of naysayers at the beginning and people who kind of, thought we were crazy. But because everybody really was in this odd place in life, I think a lot of people were willing to try something new that they may not have normally been as open to.
Sure.
Because it is a totally different approach to child welfare. So the program is strictly for children who are infants and toddlers under the age of 36 months and their families when they enter foster care. So it's still, like I said, the same population of children in foster care. It's just a narrower age range. And it's a different program. So children who are appointed a CASA, that is court ordered. The advocate is court ordered, court appointed to their case. It's not a voluntary. The child or the parent doesn't get to choose necessarily if they want one or don't want one.
Right.
That's the judges. The judge is the one who gets to choose that. In contrast, the Safe Babies Court Team is a voluntary program. So it is up to the biological parent to decide whether they want to participate or not. And if they do, then they, sign consent to participate. And then the case becomes a Safe Babies Court Team case. And it really just changes the course of how that family's interaction is with the child welfare system, rather than be the traditional, adversarial approach. That court, and anything in court is adversarial because that's what court is.
Yeah.
This really kind of takes it out of that lens and puts it in a very collaborative, really partnership-minded approach. And rather than the case go to court every 3 to 4 months, they are in Safe Babies. They are seen before the judge every month, every 30 days generally. And in addition, the entire team, which is unheard of in child welfare typically, including attorneys. So the attorneys, all of the service providers who are working, with the family. So it could be mental health counselors, substance abuse treatment providers, the biological parent themselves, the child welfare caseworker, from DCP&P, our staff, who's the employee of Safe Babies. They're the Safe Babies coordinator. Obviously the parents and the foster parents who are taking care of the child, or relative if the child is, possibly with a relative. All of them are considered the team altogether surrounding this child, and they meet monthly. And like I said, this room is used sometimes for those family team meetings when they're in person.
Sure.
Unfortunately, because of the world we're in right now, or fortunately, there's pros and cons. A lot of those meetings are on Zoom, but it makes it accessible so everybody really can be together. And even if somebody's an hour away, they can still make it. Or if they're working, they can just take a break and step out over lunchtime and still join the conversation.
Yeah.
So that collaborative nature of getting everybody together as a team once a month and going to court once a month is really what the change of mentality was, because it's really intensive. I mean, it's a really intensive commitment for the parent and for all the professionals involved. So I am personally eternally grateful for a couple of key professionals, one of the supervisors from our Office of Parental Representation, several of our judges, supervisors from the Deputy Attorney General's office, who believed in this program, 4 years ago when we launched it, and said, yeah, we need this. This really makes sense. This is best practice. Let's try it. Because they easily could have said, no, we don't have time.
Right.
And because it is a lot of time. But we've seen so much success that intensity pays off in the end with more successful outcomes, quicker resolutions to cases, that kids are either reunified faster, or that if they aren't able to be reunified, that their adoption and their guardianships are completed, in a quicker manner. Yeah. And they get services, something that typically would have been a discussion in court. This child needs an evaluation for, some type of special education or developmental evaluation. You might not, have a follow-up conversation until you go back to court 3 months later.
Right.
Here, that same group of people are together not only once a month, but twice a month. And things can really be, the red tape can be, cut through. Things can be troubleshooted in a lot faster than they are in I'll say a traditional practice.
Sure.
The Mayo Performing Arts Center is the heart of arts and entertainment in Morristown, New Jersey. MPAC presents over 200 events annually and is home to an innovative children's arts education program. To see MPAC's upcoming schedule of world-class concerts, stand-up comedy, family shows, and more, head to mayoarts.org or just click the link in our show notes.
Looking to buy, sell, or rent in Monmouth or Ocean counties? Megan Carroll of RE/MAX Elite brings local expertise and personalized service. Megan will make your real estate process smooth and stress-free. Bringing Southern hospitality to the Jersey Shore, call Megan today at 732-508-7402 or visit her website at mcsellsbythesea.com.
Okay, I have a question. Kind of like this is a little bit off kind of what we're talking about right now.
I went way down into weeds.
No, listen, I love it. Because it's stuff that
I could talk about it all day.
This is why I like doing this show, because I learned about things that I didn't even, I knew stuff like this existed. I'm not blind to that. But like to really know what goes into stuff like it's just like, I don't know. Like we talked earlier about like the great things that you're doing, and we're talking about these things and obviously like helping kids and all that. Like it's got to be like tough sometimes too, I would imagine, right? Like getting involved in these types of situations.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like would the balance be knowing that like you are doing a lot of really good things and it kind of like supersedes that and you have to like keep telling yourself that all the time?
I think everybody finds their own balance.
Yeah.
At this point in my life, I've seen the longevity over things. So yeah, I can look at the big picture and say, okay, this was terrible. Mom left rehab today and she was so close to being reunited, and it's frustrating, beyond frustrating. But when you can see it from a big picture, you learn that, relapse is just part of the process of recovery, unfortunately, for when we're talking about substance abuse specifically.
Sure.
And just because she left the program today doesn't mean that she's permanently left the program, and hopefully we can re-engage her and she'll get, involved again. But we are a child advocacy organization. Obviously, supporting parents is a huge piece of child advocacy, but at the heart of the day, I always look at what is the long term for these kids. And can't believe I'm saying this, but, at this point in my
We can cut
life,
it if you decide that you don't want to say it. After.
I've been here long enough that I've been able to see kids who were kids.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. Like from 2007 to now, that's 17 years.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, like, what is like the timetable basically of having a kid kind of as part of your help?
I think that's what keeps me here.
Yeah.
Really. Because, obviously not every story is a success story.
Sure.
We're dealing with the most challenging challenges in society. I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah.
Substance abuse and mental illness and physical abuse and sexual abuse. And I mean, these are not problems that are solved and people walk away from without trauma.
Yeah.
It just is. It's trauma. It's more about learning how to work with it and, move on past it to a point. But 17 years, as you said, I've been able to see a lot of our kids succeed in life. Yes, I've absolutely also seen kids who've aged out. So we serve children up to age 21.
Okay.
So they're still able to get support from the child welfare system between 18 and 21 as long as they are in school or working.
Okay.
So, some of our kids, I knew from the time they were toddlers till the time they were 21. And just the same as you see your own kids, seeing them grow and develop and graduate from school is, hugely rewarding. I think the most rewarding thing in my entire career actually just happened within the last 3 weeks. We have a young man who was a CASA child. He's way taller than me right now, so I can't call him a CASA child anymore. But he aged out of the system at age 21. He had been in foster care, for several years through high school. And I knew him, worked with him. His direct advocate, worked, with him the most. But, I still had built a relationship with him years ago. And we kind of stayed in touch, email here and there, a Facebook message once in a while. And about a year ago, he reached out and was looking just for some contact information. And he was graduating from Columbia University.
Wow.
He was, 31 years old, had gone back to school, as an older student. And I almost thought he was, joking when he said it. And I've said this to his face. So it's like, really? Columbia? That's where you ended up?
Yeah.
Impressed, beyond impressed. And, we've stayed in touch since then. He graduated in May of this year, top of his class. And he came on staff here as an advocate supervisor a couple of weeks ago. So that is the first time that I'm aware of in any CASA program, at least in our region, our area, that a child who formerly was a beneficiary of the program, eventually came on staff. And to me, that has been, he's not to, look forward so many years because we'll see, how he thinks the experience is. But to me, that's just been the most rewarding to really, really come full circle and see, be able to see how he's now going to be supporting children who, were exactly where he was, 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it really, I think it definitely does, especially for like when we talked earlier, we've like almost kind of the theme of this is like the normalcy type of thing. But
Absolutely.
To see someone that's like you and or like, talks like whatever, or comes from like a similar like knows what it is. Like you couldn't do a job, but unless you've like been in it, like you don't necessarily know.
I think that's what makes our staff different.
Yeah.
You said when you walk in, you saw everybody together. When we, it's not a data point we really like advertise, but when we look at our staff and, do some data, we're a very data-driven program, but that's a different workshop. 80% of our staff, myself included, have what we call lived experiences or personal connections to either the child welfare system, substance abuse, or mental health systems.
Okay.
And a lot of it is themselves. We have, besides the young man I just talked about, we have 2 other staff who were in foster care. They didn't have CASA volunteers at the time, so they're a little bit different category, but they were in foster care when they were children. So they have that very specific experience. We have several staff who have had siblings or their own children struggle with substance abuse and addiction issues, and they've been very, involved in that from a personal perspective. And the same, we have several staff who've had their own immediate family members deal with pretty severe mental illness. And I think there's there's no amount of schooling that can give you that kind of experience.
No.
You know, when you learn to work the system because you're a participant in the system, you come at this type of professional work from a whole different angle.
Yeah.
I know I do. And that has driven me to bring more staff on, or as much as possible to bring staff on who have that same lens.
Yeah.
And I think that gives our quality, it just boosts up, the quality and type of support you can give people in a way that, no degree or license ever could.
100%. Yeah. The real world street smarts.
Absolutely. Street smarts. All about street smarts.
Okay. Last program. Open Door Store.
Open Door Store is the fun program, I say.
All right, the fun program.
The fun program, yeah. No, they're all fun. They're all fun. The stuff, so back to it, really, it keeps, not to sound like a broken record, but it always comes back to normalcy. A child's in foster care and their advocate, is the one going to court and telling the judge what they need or what's in their best interest and, fighting for them in school meetings and all those other types of settings. That's great. And we need that. And to me, the advocacy is definitely the biggest, most important thing. But if this child is also going to school, without appropriate winter clothing, with no coat, or if they're going to school wearing clothes that are 2 sizes too small or 2 sizes too big, there's only so much the advocacy is ever going to do in terms of their self-confidence, their emotional well-being, their ability to fit in and participate in activities with peers. So that's really where the Open Door Store kind of has really organically grown. It came out of, the very early days of our Passaic County CASA program when we had kids who needed specific things. They couldn't play on the soccer team because they needed to buy cleats and nobody would pay for the cleats.
Yeah.
They needed a winter coat because it was cold and, they were living in a group home that didn't have access to those types of donations. And so originally it was just like a one-off. This kid needs one specific thing. Usually one of us on staff would just go get it and, or ask friends or family for donations and get it and then give it to them. But the needs became more and more. As our program grew, we needed a lot more things a lot more often. So kind of gradually over time, we formalized that stuff into a program, which we now call the Open Door Store. And it really is a store. I don't know if you saw it when you walked in, but if not, I'll show you when you're leaving.
Yeah.
There's a room in our office here in Wayne, and then we have a satellite office in Elizabeth, right downtown Elizabeth, that also has a room within that office. It's built out. It looks like you're walking into a really cool, fancy children's boutique that would be in a, high income, cute little downtown, except it's inside our office. Yeah. And it's everything that a child could want from the day they're discharged from the hospital, all the basic baby essentials, all the way up to teenage clothes, the cool shoes, the Nike hoodies, whatever we would want to go to school or whatever our kids would want. Because my kids would tell me I don't dress cool. My kids are very critical of my clothing, but that's also a different
My fiance
conversation.
says I was a total tear down and rebuild in the fashion department. So whatever.
We used to go to school wearing like sweatpants and hoodies, but I don't know. Now it's got to be a specific type of sweatpants and hoodies,
right?
And we want our kids just because they're in foster care to be able to fit whatever that is, whether it's sweatpants and hoodies or specific jeans and a dress up shirt or something. So we encourage our kids to have the agency to come and shop for themselves, pick out. It's not like, oh, my caseworker dropped off this bag of stuff and it's nothing I even like.
Right.
So the store is open. Obviously, we say store, but there's no money exchange. It's completely free for kids and their foster parents to come and pick out what they want, what they need. They can try it on. They can pick out, I like this color, but not that color. It changes every season. We've got whatever season appropriate stuff, coming in, and the last season goes back into storage. Yeah. And that is all run by volunteers, and it's all filled by donations. So it's only new. There's no hand-me-downs, again, to that normalcy policy.
Right.
We definitely could. We would be swamped if we said we took, lightly used or hand-me-down clothes, but we don't. We believe that children in foster care should have new things and not be a hand-me-down.
Yeah.
And that in itself, I have seen so much pay off. Kids come in and I think they expect it to be used. If it's their first time, coming to the store. Yeah. And recently there was a little girl who was shopping on a Saturday and she picked up, she goes, wait, this is new. there's tags on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. She goes, am I allowed to have it? Because it's new? And I was like, yeah, you can have it.
Yeah.
Does it fit you? Is that the one you want?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a, like winter fuzzy kind of coat kind of thing. But she was shocked that she was being given access to pick a new one.
Yeah.
Like
how cool is that?
And that's what I was like, do you want the purple one or the pink one? This is, she was like 2nd, 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And
It's like made her
she was so excited.
day,
So excited.
The whole thing. Yeah.
So we do that same thing throughout the year. When it's August, it's school supplies, back to school, backpacks, and all of that. Obviously, this time of year, we're doing winter coats. We always have the basic, socks and underwear and pajamas and all that kind of stuff, which we need. In the spring, we do special occasion dresses, whether it's, a prom or an 8th grade dance, or, sometimes children are involved, in a religious organization that they need special clothing for. So we make sure that they have access to all that in the springtime or whenever they need it, but usually it's spring. And then the summer, we switch to summer stuff. Most of our kids do go to camp of some kind, and you need to bring a bathing suit.
Yep.
You need to bring a towel.
Yep.
And depending on where they're living, they may not have access to a ton of beach towels just sitting around, the group home that they're in.
Yeah, right.
So, again, we make sure that they can come and pick out what they want and what fits them. And, that's open to any child who's in foster care across any of the counties that our programs work in. So that's Passaic, Hudson, Essex, and Union County. I'm like, oh, I forgot one.
I had you. I was getting ready to say it. That's amazing. And I think that like I just said, it's that to me is like a really cool thing. Like you said, almost expecting it to be hand me down, but then it's new stuff.
Yeah. Every time a child comes in for the first time, I just love watching them be able to pick things out.
Yeah. And
sometimes they're so shy to even say they want something, and you can kind of like see them eyeing something up, especially the littler kids.
Yeah.
And sometimes the teenagers too. Teenagers, they want it more than anybody often, but are really hesitant to ask, can I have that thing on the shelf? And we really just try to make them, within reason. We've got to make all the stuff spread around. We can't have one person come in and clean out the whole room. But we want to make sure that, they are getting what they want.
Yeah. And I think it's like, to me, it's and it's like a thing where we talked about before, like, I think you said it's like sometimes kids may not say something that's in their best interest.
Yeah.
And I think that in this world that we're talking about and the people that you're trying to help, it's like giving them like agency to pick something for themselves for like possibly the first time in their entire life.
Yeah. Especially our kids, our younger kids. Yeah. And that we use the word agency all the time. That agency then leads into better, just mental well-being, more confidence.
Yeah, because like their whole life everything. Really is like being
over.
Dictated by so many other people.
Absolutely.
And then they'll take some of that back.
Yeah. Sometimes it's that one time, especially in, after the process of being removed from home and put in foster care where they maybe don't know anybody, they don't know anything, they, only took a small bag of their own belongings. They're, at a place where they really are not making any decisions for themselves. They may not even be deciding what they want for breakfast because this is what we have. And, you may eat one cereal, but that one's not an option.
Right.
So this is just one tiny little way that we can help give them that choice back in their life. And hopefully then it spills over into, other aspects, into school and into home over time.
Amazing. Okay. I want to get into, because we're getting close to the end of the episode, get into ways that people can get involved.
It's my favorite part.
There we go. But we talked about volunteer stuff already a couple times over the course of the episode, but obviously this time of year, so for people that are listening, we are recording this a week before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So getting into the holiday season is going to come out before like Christmas and all that. So I think that'll be helpful.
Good. Yes.
And then, so what are some things that are going on right now? And then we'll kind of get into more like the year round stuff. Cause it obviously like, this is a big time where people are feeling generous and all that, which is great.
Yep.
But obviously like these things that we're talking about don't just start and stop between like November 1st and December 31st, you know?
We should record that snippet and use that on our advertising.
I'll clip it for you. You can play it on loop.
No, yes, this is the most generous time of the year, I think, for society as a whole.
Yeah.
Every organization, is always focused on a specific holiday, kind of thing, end of year collection or something, which is fabulous. But we do need help all year long because, foster care doesn't end on January 1st.
Right.
Our kids are still here
Yep.
the rest of the year. But I love the holiday season because I'll say exposes is not the great word, but it really makes people aware of our organization, but really more importantly of our children and
Right.
the needs that they have, in a lot wider population than often are aware of the needs. So, the holiday season is a great time for people to get involved in a small way and learn more and, kind of decide through that learning process whether it's something that they're interested in, getting engaged in again in the future or
Right.
ongoing. And I would say if someone has an interest to support children in foster care, there is a way for everybody. Not everybody can volunteer, but everybody can donate something small or, share a post on social media so somebody else can learn about it. Like
Right.
every little thing matters to these kids and to us as an organization helping children in foster care. But right now, we are at our end of year campaign, which of course is a big fundraising period. It takes, we're not government funded other than some competitive grants, which we apply for and we may get or we may not get every
Right.
year. So majority of our funding is from individuals, fundraising events, private family foundations, local foundations. So this is a big push of end of year fundraising, and those financial gifts mean that we can advocate for more kids and we can provide more kids that normalcy that they need. And of course, to this very specific normalcy, we make sure every child has what's on their wish list
Yeah.
for that holiday season. So whether they're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or Ramadan, we make sure that a child they submit their specific wish list to their advocate, to our staff, and rather than just a general toy collection,
Yeah.
we always add more than what they wish because we're a little over on the holidays, but over the top,
Everybody
I should
feels
say.
there. Yeah.
We want to make sure if they ask for a specific colored, specific Lego set,
Yeah.
that's the one they're getting. They're
Right.
not just getting any old Lego set, that happens to be donated. So it's just a really exciting. I would say, my program director and our development director and I are responsible for, depending on the year, between 500 and 600 kids getting what Santa, is supposed to be bringing them.
Yeah.
Sometimes our own biological children don't get what they want because I forget to deal with their own wishes until it's Christmas Eve. I have to buy stuff for my kids. But it's so much fun. And it allows us to get to talk about the work we do to, donors and community members. It allows people to come in and get to know us in a way that, we don't necessarily get to do the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So that is why I love the holiday season around here.
Yeah. There's a winter coat drive too.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. So, winter coats, to me, a basic, like everybody needs them.
Sure.
They're already going out the door because suddenly we went from, I don't know, whatever temperature it was,
Yeah.
to cold and rainy today.
Yep.
So everybody needs coats. The winter coat drive goes through December 9th, I think it is. And if children don't, have a winter coat now, sometimes we always have a back stock. So we'll take them any time of the year.
Got it.
Because kids do come into foster care in January, February, March, and sometimes, or often don't come in with the coat.
Yeah.
So it's not just a one-time thing either. Like anything else, we always have an extra back supply of school supplies because if a child comes in to foster care in the middle of the year, they still need school supplies. It's not a September only kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now our focus is the winter coat drive and then the holiday gift wish list collection.
Amazing. This has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us and telling us all about child focus and everything.
Yeah. No, it's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we get you to be a CASA volunteer?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I do live in Essex County, so that's,
Close enough to drive here.
There you go.
You can live anywhere and volunteer anywhere.
Okay, even better.
Yep.
So that kind of leading into that, if people are like listening to this episode and they really enjoy what you guys do and they want to get involved or they just want to like learn more, where would you send them to go do that?
Visit our website first, childfocusnj.org. There's links, drop down pages for each of our programs. The CASA program, again, is where most of our volunteer usage is. And the CASA volunteer it's a big commitment because it's not your average volunteer role. We ask for, a long-term time commitment because the average case is 18 to 24 months and we need people who can make that long-term commitment to that specific child.
Yeah.
But if people even have the slightest bit of interest, we always say, come to an information session, call the office, email us, so we can tell you more about it, and answer your questions. There's no commitment, to come to one of those open houses. But visit the website. There's tons of information about the volunteering for that or volunteering more in like the open door store in terms of donations and helping in that way.
Amazing. I will make sure we put that in the show notes. People just go click it, go right there.
Wonderful.
Again, thank you so much for inviting me here.
Thanks for having me.
And then doing the episode with us. It was amazing. So we'll put childfocusnj.org in the show notes, along with greetingsfromthegardenState.com, which of course you can get all of our other episodes that we released so far in 2024, but we're coming up. This might honestly wind up being one of the last episodes. Well, it will be, I think, probably the last episode of the year.
Going out with a bang.
That's right. Amazing. So we were here today at Child Focus in Wayne, New Jersey with Executive Director Erica Fischer-Kaslander. I'm Mike Ham. This has been the Greetings from the Garden State podcast powered by the New Jersey Lottery. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.